Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you're stuck in the same place, unable to level up in life? Like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, yet things don't seem to change. The truth is, many of us are trapped in a cycle of frustration and stagnation, trying to force progress in the wrong ways. What if the key to unlocking true growth wasn't about working harder or grinding more, but something far simpler and far more powerful? What if you could change your life by shifting the way you think, the way you approach adversity, and the way you respond to challenges? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy practiced by some of the most successful people in history, offers us timeless strategies to do exactly that. And today, I'm going to show you how these 11 Stoic principles can help you finally level up in life, ready to stop spinning your wheels and start moving forward. Let's dive in. Stoicism is often misunderstood as just a set of ancient ideas with little relevance to modern life, but in reality, it offers us a blueprint for thriving in today's world. It teaches us how to respond to life's challenges with resilience, how to maintain inner peace amidst chaos, and how to find joy in what really matters. The Stoics understood that we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can always control how we respond. And that response is the key to building a life that aligns with our values, rather than being tossed around by the whims of fate. Today, we'll explore 11 Stoic strategies that can transform your life. These aren't just abstract concepts, they are practical tools you can apply every day. By embracing these principles, you'll be able to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with a sense of calm, clarity, and purpose. Whether you're facing personal struggles, career setbacks, or simply feeling overwhelmed by the world around you, these Stoic strategies will empower you to rise above. It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about becoming the kind of person who can handle whatever life throws your way. So let's dive into the first strategy and start your journey toward leveling up in life. The first Stoic strategy that can radically change your life is learning to control only what you can control. It sounds simple, but this principle is the foundation of Stoic thought. The Stoics believed that we spend too much of our energy worrying about things outside our control. Other people's actions, the economy, the weather, or events we have no influence over. In doing so, we create unnecessary stress and frustration. But when we focus only on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions, we free ourselves from the weight of the world. Take a moment to think about the last time you felt overwhelmed. How much of that stress came from things you couldn't change? Maybe it was a difficult situation at work, or an argument with someone you care about. We often get caught up in trying to control other people's behavior, or we dwell on things that have already happened. But if we're honest with ourselves, we know that we can't change the past, and we can't control other people's decisions. Instead, what we can control is how we respond. We can control how we choose to think about a situation, how we choose to act in the face of adversity, and how we decide to move forward. This shift in focus doesn't mean ignoring the world around us. It means recognizing that the only thing we truly have power over is our own mindset and actions. Imagine how much more peace you would have in your life if you stopped fighting battles that were never yours to fight in the first place. When you adopt the Stoic mindset of controlling only what you can, you begin to find freedom. You stop wasting energy on things beyond your reach and start channeling that energy into what truly matters, becoming the best version of yourself. By making this shift, you take back your power and regain control over your life. The second Stoic strategy is to embrace adversity. This may sound counterintuitive, but the Stoics believed that every challenge, every setback, is an opportunity to grow. Life will inevitably throw obstacles in our path, but it's not the obstacles themselves that define us. It's how we respond to them. Instead of viewing hardship as something to avoid or fear, we can see it as a chance to strengthen our character, sharpen our minds, and test our resilience. Think about the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who was born a slave and faced unimaginable hardship. Despite his circumstances, he became one of the most influential thinkers of his time, teaching that suffering is a part of life and that we have the power to choose how we react to it. Epictetus didn't see adversity as something that should break him. He saw it as a tool for his personal growth. This mindset doesn't mean we should seek out suffering or try to make our lives harder than they need to be. It simply means that we should stop running from difficulty when it arises. Instead of resisting challenges, we can embrace them, knowing that they offer us the chance to become more than we were before. When we meet adversity head-on, we learn to become more adaptable, more resilient, and more resourceful. When you face a difficult situation, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? The Stoics believe that by welcoming adversity, we transform it from something that harms us into something that serves our development. Adversity doesn't have to define you, it can refine you. It's in the moments of difficulty that we find our true strength and discover what we're really capable of. The third Stoic strategy is the practice of gratitude. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in what we don't have, always focusing on the next thing we want to acquire or the next goal we want to achieve. But the Stoics taught us that true contentment doesn't come from accumulation, but from appreciating what we already have. Gratitude is the practice of acknowledging the good things in our lives, no matter how small, and recognizing that even in difficult times, there is always something to be thankful for. Seneca, a Roman Stoic philosopher, wrote extensively about the importance of gratitude. He believed that we often take our blessings for granted and fail to realize how much we already possess. For example, we may complain about the weather or our job, but what about the fact that we have a roof over our heads, the ability to move, or the freedom to choose how we spend our time? These things may seem ordinary, but they are gifts that many people around the world don't have. When we shift our focus from what we lack to what we have, we begin to change our mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. Gratitude also helps us build resilience. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we develop a sense of appreciation for life's little moments, which in turn makes it easier to cope with the inevitable challenges. Even in times of hardship, gratitude reminds us that there is always something worth appreciating. Maybe it's a supportive friend, a lesson learned from a difficult experience, or simply the ability to keep going. By practicing gratitude, we train ourselves to look for the good in every situation, which leads to a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. A simple practice of gratitude could be as easy as taking a few minutes each day to reflect on the things you're thankful for. This could be in the morning, before you start your day, or in the evening, before you go to bed. It doesn't matter how small or big the things are that you list. What matters is that you make it a habit to regularly acknowledge the blessings in your life. When you do this, you begin to see your life through a new lens, one that reveals all the richness that surrounds you. The fourth Stoic strategy is to cultivate inner peace. In a world filled with noise, distractions, and constant demands on our time, finding peace within ourselves can seem like an impossible task. Yet for the Stoics, inner peace was not just a lofty ideal, it was a vital necessity. They believed that true peace comes from within, not from external circumstances. This idea is echoed by Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers and Roman emperors, who wrote in his personal journals, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Cultivating inner peace is about learning to control our reactions to the world around us. It's not about avoiding challenges or retreating from the difficulties of life. Instead, it's about developing the ability to remain calm and centered in the face of them. The Stoics taught that we cannot always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. By choosing to approach each situation with a sense of calm and composure, we preserve our peace of mind, no matter how chaotic the world may seem. One of the ways the Stoics practiced this was through mindfulness. They didn't let their emotions or impulses dictate their actions. Instead, they observed their thoughts and feelings without becoming overwhelmed by them. When faced with a difficult situation, the Stoics would take a step back, observe their emotions, and choose their response with wisdom. This practice allows us to make decisions that are not driven by fear, anger, or anxiety, but by reason and clarity. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to let stress and anxiety take over. But when we cultivate inner peace, we can respond to life with greater resilience and understanding. It's about finding a steady center within ourselves, so that no matter what happens externally, we remain unshaken. When we are at peace within, the external chaos becomes less important. We don't need to control everything around us. We only need to control ourselves. This is the path to true inner freedom. The fifth Stoic strategy is to be present in the moment. In a world that is constantly pulling us in 1,000 directions, it's easy to find ourselves lost in thoughts about the past or worries about the future. But the Stoics emphasize the importance of living fully in the present moment, for it is only in the present that we truly have power. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." The quality of our thoughts is shaped by where we focus our attention. If we focus on the past or the future, we rob ourselves of the peace and joy that can only be found in the present. Being present means letting go of the distractions that keep us from experiencing life as it unfolds. When we worry about things that are out of our control, or when we dwell on mistakes we've made in the past, we miss the opportunities that are right in front of us. The Stoics believed that our time is limited, and we should use it wisely. This is why they stressed the importance of being fully engaged in whatever task or moment we find ourselves in. Whether it's working, spending time with loved ones, or simply enjoying a quiet moment, being present means giving our full attention to the here and now, without being distracted by thoughts of what's next or what's already happened. This strategy can be incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to managing stress and anxiety. When we focus only on what we are doing in the present, we stop allowing our minds to wander into a future that may never come, or a past that cannot be changed. We release ourselves from the weight of those concerns and become free to engage with life more fully. In practice, this means not multitasking or rushing through our days, but instead focusing on one thing at a time, doing it to the best of our ability, and being fully aware of the experience as it happens. Being present is also a form of self-mastery. It's about training our minds to focus on what's happening now, rather than being controlled by distractions or fears. By practicing this, we learn to make better decisions, respond to challenges with more clarity, and experience life more fully. And in a world that's constantly pulling us away from the moment, this Stoic practice can be a profound way to reconnect with what truly matters. The sixth Stoic strategy is to develop self-discipline. In a world filled with instant gratification and distractions, cultivating self-discipline can be one of the most important skills for achieving lasting success and inner peace. The Stoics believed that self-discipline is the foundation of a virtuous life. It is through discipline that we control our impulses, make wiser decisions, and ultimately live in accordance with our values, rather than being swayed by fleeting desires. Self-discipline, as the Stoics taught, isn't about punishing ourselves or living in deprivation. It's about learning to make choices that align with our long-term well-being, rather than giving in to short-term pleasures that might lead us astray. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, argued that those who lack discipline are like ships without a rudder. They are at the mercy of the winds, tossed around and led wherever they happen to go. On the other hand, those who practice discipline steer their own course, even when faced with strong currents or obstacles. To develop self-discipline, it's important to understand that it doesn't come naturally to most of us. It takes practice and intentionality. One way to start is by setting clear, realistic goals and then sticking to them, no matter how tempting it might be to stray off course. This could mean saying no to distractions, waking up earlier to work on your goals, or practicing restraint when faced with temptations, whether that's food, social media, or any other desire that takes us away from what really matters. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of controlling our emotions, especially in difficult situations. Instead of reacting impulsively, they advise taking a step back, observing our feelings, and then choosing a response that is rational and in line with our values. This kind of self-control is essential for making sound decisions, whether it's in a moment of anger, fear, or temptation. Developing this kind of emotional discipline not only helps us avoid making rash decisions, but it also contributes to a sense of inner peace, knowing that we are not controlled by our impulses, but instead are the masters of them. By consistently practicing self-discipline, we build the mental strength needed to live a more deliberate, purposeful life. Over time, these small acts of self-control accumulate, leading to greater freedom. It may seem challenging at first, but remember that every small choice to stay disciplined is a step toward becoming the person you want to be. And just like any muscle, the more you exercise your self-discipline, the stronger it becomes, ultimately leading to a life of greater fulfillment and self-mastery. The seventh Stoic strategy is to avoid complaining. Complaining is something most of us do without even thinking about it. Whether it's about our job, the weather, or the people around us, we often find ourselves caught in a cycle of negativity. But the Stoics understood that complaining serves no purpose. It doesn't change our situation, it doesn't make us feel better in the long run, and it certainly doesn't contribute to personal growth. In fact, it often keeps us stuck in the same mindset of frustration and helplessness. Epictetus, one of the key Stoic philosophers, often reminded his students that our circumstances are not the problem. It's how we choose to respond to those circumstances that matters. Complaining about something outside our control only drains our energy and distracts us from what we can actually change, our own attitude and actions. By focusing on what we can control, our response to situations, we take back our power and free ourselves from the negative grip that complaining often has on us. When we complain, we are essentially choosing to give away our power, letting the external world dictate how we feel. But the Stoics believed that true freedom comes from within. It comes from recognizing that we have the ability to control our reactions, no matter what happens around us. Instead of complaining, they encouraged taking responsibility for our own responses and choosing to act in a way that aligns with our values, even in the face of hardship. This doesn't mean we should ignore our emotions or suppress our frustrations. It's perfectly natural to feel upset when things don't go our way. But the Stoic approach is about recognizing those feelings, processing them, and then making a conscious decision not to dwell on them or allow them to control us. Complaining, after all, is a form of resistance, resisting what is, instead of accepting it and moving forward. The Stoics taught that when we let go of the need to complain, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and open the door to more productive, positive action. The next time you feel the urge to complain, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what can I do about this? Focus on the actions you can take and the lessons you can learn rather than dwelling on the things you cannot change. This shift in mindset is one of the most empowering things you can do, and over time, it will help you break free from the grip of negativity and create space for more peace, purpose, and progress in your life. The eighth Stoic strategy is to keep perspective. Life has a way of throwing us curveballs, and it's easy to get caught up in the moment, thinking that whatever problem or challenge we're facing is the end of the world. But the Stoics taught that it's crucial to step back and see the bigger picture. Keeping perspective means recognizing that our current struggles, no matter how overwhelming they may feel, are temporary. It means understanding that life is full of ups and downs, and one setback doesn't define who we are or dictate how the rest of our story will unfold. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the transience of life. He reminded himself that everything in the universe is in constant change, and the things we worry about today will eventually pass. When we keep this in mind, it becomes easier to face challenges with a sense of calm, knowing that no situation, no matter how dire it seems in the moment, is permanent. This perspective doesn't make problems go away, but it helps us see them for what they are, temporary obstacles that we can overcome with patience and wisdom. A powerful way to keep perspective is to remind yourself of the bigger context. When facing a difficult situation, ask yourself, will this matter in a year, 5 years? By considering the long-term view, we can gain clarity and detach ourselves from the immediate emotional reaction that often clouds our judgment. This allows us to respond more rationally rather than reacting impulsively based on temporary emotions. Another aspect of perspective is understanding that we are not the center of the universe. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own issues that we forget that everyone else is facing their own struggles. By recognizing that we are part of a larger, interconnected world, we can adopt a more humble and compassionate view. This shift in perspective helps reduce feelings of isolation or self-pity, allowing us to connect more deeply with others and find meaning in our shared human experience. Keeping perspective also involves recognizing that we cannot control everything. External events, the actions of others, and even our own past decisions are beyond our control. What we can control, however, is how we choose to view these events and how we respond to them. By embracing this Stoic principle, we free ourselves from the weight of unnecessary worry and frustration. We understand that everything is part of a greater process, and no single event or setback will define us unless we let it. When we maintain this perspective, we cultivate resilience and a deeper sense of peace, no matter what life throws our way. The 9th Stoic strategy is to simplify your life. In a world that constantly encourages more possessions, more achievements, more distractions, it can be easy to get caught up in the pursuit of things that don't truly bring us happiness or fulfillment. The Stoics, however, believed that the key to a meaningful and content life was not in accumulation, but in simplicity. By simplifying our lives, we remove the clutter, both physical and mental, that prevents us from focusing on what truly matters. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, often spoke about the dangers of excess. He believed that the more we accumulate, the more we become enslaved by our desires. The more possessions we own, the more we have to manage, protect, and worry about. The more goals we chase, the more we risk losing sight of what is truly important. By embracing simplicity, we free ourselves from the constant pressure to have more and instead make room for a more focused, deliberate life. Simplifying your life doesn't mean rejecting everything that brings you joy or fulfillment. Rather, it means getting rid of the things that are unnecessary and don't contribute to your well-being. This could mean decluttering your physical space, getting rid of things you no longer use or need. Or it could mean simplifying your schedule, cutting out activities that don't serve your long-term goals or values. It also involves simplifying your mind by letting go of unnecessary worries and distractions. Instead of overloading your mind with every detail and problem, focus on the present moment and what truly matters. One of the most powerful aspects of simplifying your life is the clarity it brings. When you remove the distractions, you make space for what is essential. With fewer possessions, fewer commitments, and fewer mental burdens, you are able to give your full attention to the things that align with your values, your relationships, your personal growth, your work, and your health. This allows you to live a life that is more intentional, more peaceful, and more in harmony with your true self. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes not from having more, but from needing less. By learning to be content with less, we can experience the world in a more meaningful and profound way. This doesn't mean we have to live in deprivation, but it does mean that we need to be mindful of what we allow into our lives and make conscious choices that support our long-term well-being. By simplifying our lives, we create space for greater focus, purpose, and fulfillment. The 10th Stoic strategy is to focus on virtue, not external success. In a society that often equates success with wealth, status, and achievements, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of external rewards. We are taught to chase after what others see as success, whether it's a high-paying job, a certain lifestyle, or recognition from others. But the Stoics believed that true success lies not in external accomplishments, but in living a virtuous life. Virtue, to the Stoics, is the highest good. It is the only thing we can truly control and the only source of lasting happiness. The Stoics defined virtue as living in accordance with reason, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These are qualities that cannot be taken away by external circumstances. Unlike fame, wealth, or material possessions, virtue is something that stays with us, regardless of what happens in the outside world. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reminded himself that he should not seek validation from others or pursue fleeting desires. Instead, he focused on cultivating the virtues that would lead to a good life, regardless of how others perceived him. Focusing on virtue means making choices based on what is right rather than what is easy or popular. It means acting with integrity, even when no one is watching. It means prioritizing kindness, fairness, and wisdom over personal gain or recognition. This approach doesn't guarantee fame or fortune, but it does guarantee a life of deeper meaning and fulfillment. The Stoics believed that when we live in alignment with our highest values, we experience a sense of inner peace that no external success can provide. By shifting our focus from external success to internal virtue, we begin to redefine what it means to live a successful life. Success is no longer about impressing others or acquiring things. It becomes about becoming the best version of ourselves, rooted in integrity, wisdom, and courage. This doesn't mean we should reject all worldly achievements, but it does mean that we should view them as secondary to the cultivation of virtue. When we focus on virtue, we are free from the constant pressure to conform to society's definitions of success, and instead we find true satisfaction in living a life that is authentically our own. In the end, the Stoics taught that the pursuit of virtue leads to the greatest form of success, the kind of success that is not dependent on external validation, but on the inner contentment that comes from living a life of purpose, integrity, and moral clarity. When we focus on virtue, we not only live better lives ourselves, but we also contribute to a better world around us. The 11th Stoic strategy is to reflect and adjust. This principle emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and continuous self-improvement. The Stoics believed that the path to wisdom and virtue is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing process. To live well, we must regularly reflect on our actions, thoughts, and decisions, and be willing to adjust our behavior based on what we learn from those reflections. One of the core practices of Stoicism is daily reflection. At the end of each day, the Stoics would take time to review their actions and thoughts. They would ask themselves questions like, did I act with virtue today? Did I let my emotions control me? Where could I have done better? This practice of self-examination helps us become more aware of our habits, our weaknesses, and the areas where we need to grow. It also allows us to appreciate the progress we've made, reinforcing positive behaviors and decisions. Reflecting and adjusting doesn't mean being harsh on ourselves for every mistake. Instead, it's about being honest and compassionate, recognizing that no one is perfect. The goal is to learn from our experiences so that we can make better choices moving forward. This approach encourages a mindset of growth rather than perfection. It reminds us that every day is an opportunity to learn and improve. Adjustment is a key part of this process. Once we identify areas where we've fallen short, we need to make a conscious effort to change our behavior. This might involve practicing more patience, becoming more disciplined with our time, or shifting our mindset in the face of challenges. The Stoics believe that we have the power to shape our character through deliberate action. By consistently reflecting and adjusting, we can refine our virtues and move closer to becoming the person we aspire to be. This strategy is a reminder that personal growth is not a destination, but a journey. It's easy to become complacent or stuck in old patterns, but by committing to daily reflection, we ensure that we are constantly evolving and improving. The Stoics knew that we are all works in progress, and that the key to living a meaningful life is the willingness to look inward, learn from our experiences, and make the necessary adjustments to align more closely with our highest values. In conclusion, the 11 Stoic strategies we've explored offer a timeless guide to living a life of purpose, resilience, and inner peace. By focusing on what we can control, embracing adversity, practicing gratitude, cultivating inner peace, staying present, developing self-discipline, avoiding complaining, keeping perspective, simplifying our lives, prioritizing virtue over external success, and regularly reflecting and adjusting, we equip ourselves with the tools to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and clarity. These strategies are not just abstract philosophical concepts, they are practical principles that, when applied, can transform the way we approach every aspect of our lives. They encourage us to stop looking for happiness and fulfillment in things outside of us, and instead turn inward, focusing on our thoughts, actions, and attitudes. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control external circumstances, we always have the power to control our responses. This shift in mindset leads to a life that is more intentional, meaningful, and aligned with our values. By integrating these Stoic principles into our daily lives, we cultivate a deeper sense of peace and strength. We learn to face adversity with courage, to act with integrity, and to live with purpose. The Stoics believed that a life well lived is one rooted in virtue and self-mastery, not in the pursuit of external rewards or validation. As we move forward, let these strategies guide you on your own journey to becoming the best version of yourself, one step, one decision, one moment at a time. If you found these Stoic strategies helpful and want to continue on the path of personal growth, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more insights on how to live a more meaningful and resilient life.